Okay, welcome to part 7 of this tutorial series on the VCE English Comparative Text Analysis. Okay, in this tutorial we come to the final part of the essay, which is the conclusion, or the concluding paragraph. We've previously stated that the conclusion is a final assessment of the similarities and differences between the texts. Now this is a little bit vague, so let's try and make this a little bit more detailed. What we want to try and look at with the conclusion is the overarching idea or theme or lesson or moral. Another way of thinking about it is, what is the core message of the text that we've been looking at with respect to the prompt. Whereas with the topic sentences and the evidence for those topic sentences, we've been looking at a lot of detail. The conclusion gives us a chance to zoom back out and give the sort of broader context of the text. Another way of stating that is we want to sort of write about the wider understanding of the text. Now, one way of looking at that perspective is for us to consider the author's intention. Okay, what is it that the author or the authors want their readers to take away with them after they've read the text? What are the core or key messages that the readers should take away with them? Okay, now we've been looking at the prompt, compare how conflict within communities is demonstrated in the two texts. So let's just have a look at what a conclusion might look like for that particular prompt. Okay, both Miller and Brooks seek to explore how social equilibrium quickly unravels into panic and hysteria in response to a communal crisis such as a witch hunt or a plague, and the common factors in evidence in both texts can be applied to many other periods in history. Okay, so that first sentence, we start with the authors, and the author's intent there is to explore, and they are exploring. Let's just get to the thing. They are exploring how social equilibrium quickly unravels. Okay, that's another way of saying communities are affected by conflict, and here we've said it's panic and hysteria. Okay, such as a witch hunt or a plague. But what we can do is we can extend that idea and say that the authors have recognized that there are common factors in evidence in both the texts, and those can be applied to any other period in history. McCarthy's Red Scare, the hunt for communists, Nazi Germany, the persecution of the Jews, creating social hysteria in that sense. So we make a sort of general statement, and again this comes back to the idea that it's an overarching idea or lesson that we take from these two texts. Okay, then we go on to the next sentence, which is by examining how mankind responds to conflict, both authors portray characters that will act selfishly for personal gain or for power and revenge. And they suggest immoral and irrational behavior in crisis will transcend class and gender. So again, what we do here is go back to the key idea from the topic sentences which we derived, but then we extend it, saying that immoral and irrational behavior in crisis will transcend class and gender. It doesn't matter, your social status, your socio-economic status in community. When there is conflict and social hysteria, those things don't matter. Okay, so the next sentence we come to states, whereas both authors also advocate that heroes and heroines will evolve from catastrophic events. Okay, what does that mean? Evolving from catastrophic events means that some of the characters do good things, or they transform, and you know, they become more courageous and stand up for things. But within that context, we go to a wider perspective and say that Miller paints a far more cynical view of this, because his protagonist is ultimately doomed for upholding his moral integrity, John Brooks in that sense. But Brooks prefers a more optimistic outcome for her transformed heroine and in turn her readership. So the readership comes away after reading Brooks with a sort of happier ending. That's a more optimistic outcome for the heroine in that particular social crisis. So looking at this conclusion sentence by sentence, I hope we can see that we have sort of taken a wider perspective or wider understanding, given the core messages of the two texts. And this is the kind of conclusion that you want to aim for. This is not the only conclusion that you could write. You could phrase it in a lot of different ways, but hopefully it illustrates the kind of elements and the way you want to try and portray this particular conclusion. Okay, I hope that helps. Thanks very much. Come back again soon.